Rain hammered the glittering coastline of Monaco, blurring harbor lights into trembling streaks of gold. Waves crashed against the breakwater as thunder rolled above the city of wealth and loneliness. In an alley far from luxury, a little girl ran barefoot through the storm. 7-year-old Sophia, soaked to the bone, clutched a ragged toy rabbit to her chest. Hunger had long ago taught her that the world could be cruel. She didn't know where she was running, only that the men shouting behind her had finally stopped. Lightning flashed, revealing her small, frightened face before she ducked into the shadows again. Her feet carried her toward the hill overlooking the marina, where a glass-and-stone mansion rose like a fortress against the night. The Carter estate, untouchable, immaculate, home to Alexander Carter, a billionaire known for precision, control, and solitude. To Sophia, it looked like the only safe place left. She slipped through the iron fence, scraping her arm, and crouched under the hedges, trembling and silent. Moments later, headlights cut through the rain. A sleek black car glided up the drive. Inside sat Alexander Carter, 45, polished and unreadable. To the world, he was a man who conquered empires. To himself, a man untouched by life. He stepped out, adjusting his coat, until a small voice stopped him. "Sir, may I sleep in your dog's house tonight?" He froze. Through the curtain of rain, he saw her, soaked, shivering, clutching a toy rabbit. He had no dog, no warmth, no family, yet something in that trembling voice pierced the walls around his heart. "You can't stay out here," he said, his tone softer than he intended. "I'll be quiet," she whispered, "just until the rain stops." "What's your name?" "Sophia." He knelt, meeting her eyes, wide, dark, filled with fear and something braver than fear. "Come inside," he said. Her breath caught. "Inside?" "Yes, inside." When he opened the grand door, golden light spilled onto the steps. For years, those doors had opened only to business partners and staff. Tonight, they opened to a lost child asking for shelter. Sophia hesitated, glancing at her muddy feet. "I'll get everything dirty." "Furniture can be cleaned," he replied quietly. She stepped inside, leaving wet footprints on marble, marks that would change his life forever. "You're safe here tonight, Sophia." She said nothing, only hugged her rabbit tighter. For the first time in years, Alexander felt something unfamiliar, responsibility and a strange, fragile hope. He led her through halls lined with paintings and velvet drapes until they reached a marble bathroom. She gasped, the chandelier, the white tub, the steam. "Warm water," she whispered in disbelief. "It's for you," he said, setting towels by the tub. "You'll feel better once you're warm." She stared, unsure. Hot water was a luxury she'd never been offered. Carefully, she stepped forward. Alexander turned away, leaving the door ajar so she wouldn't feel trapped. When she emerged, wrapped in a towel and one of his shirts reaching past her knees, she looked transformed. Her cheeks flushed, her hair damp in soft curls. "You must be hungry," he said. She nodded, eyes lowered. He bypassed the shelves of fine wines and caviar, settling instead for hot chocolate and cookies. When he placed them in front of her, she held the mug in both hands, as if afraid it might vanish. Her first sip brought tears. "It's too good," she whispered. Alexander said nothing. When she slipped a cookie into her pocket for later, he pretended not to notice. Survival habits die hard. When exhaustion overcame her, she asked, "Can I sleep on the couch?" "I won't make a mess." "You'll sleep in the guest room." Her eyes widened in disbelief. He led her upstairs to a vast bed of white linen. She hesitated, whispering, "It's too big." "It's yours tonight," he said. She climbed in, vanishing under the blanket, toy rabbit clutched close. "Thank you, Mr. Alexander," came her voice in the dark. He stood frozen in the doorway, those words echoing deeper than any award or deal he'd ever earned. That night, neither of them slept easily. In his study, surrounded by silence and wealth, Alexander Carter realized for the first time that everything he'd built meant nothing if it couldn't protect a single child from the rain. Morning light flooded the Carter estate. Sophia awoke to warmth, to comfort so foreign it felt like a dream. Downstairs, Alexander sat at the dining table, pretending to read while waiting for her small footsteps. She appeared in his oversized shirt, hair brushed neatly. "Good morning," she murmured. "Sit," he said. Breakfast was simple: toast, eggs, fruit. She ate slowly, saving scraps of bread on her plate. Silent proof that fear doesn't vanish overnight. Later, he said gently, "You need clothes?" In Milan, they stepped from his sleek car into a world of glass and color. Sophia stared at the shop displays as though she'd stepped into a fairy tale. When she chose the cheapest dress she could find, tugging at his sleeve, she whispered, "This is enough, Mr. Alexander." He looked at her quietly. "Sophia, you deserve more than enough." But joy turned to fear in seconds. Outside, 3 men leaned against a wall, watching her. Sophia froze. "It's them," she whispered. The men pushed through the crowd. Alexander pulled her close, his body shielding hers. "Looks like you found our little friend," the bearded one sneered. "She belongs to us." "She's a child." Alexander's voice was cold, steady. "You will not come near her again." They laughed. "You rich types don't understand the streets." One spat. "Pay, or she disappears." He tossed them cash just to get her away, but their smirks cut deeper than threats. Money won't change what she is. Street rats always crawl back. Sophia's tears broke him. He guided her into the car, locking the doors. "They won't stop," she whispered. That night, a social worker arrived. Clara Rossi, calm, kind, asking questions. Sophia clung to Alexander's arm, crying, "He takes care of me. Please don't send me back." Clara promised to help, but insisted on records, procedure, safety. Alexander agreed, though inside he seethed at bureaucracy's coldness. Then came Evelyn, his sister from London, sharp, powerful, furious. "You've lost your mind. Bringing a street child into this house? Think of our name." He looked at Sophia, small, frightened, brave, and answered simply, "I have." Days passed. The estate grew tense, security tight. Yet fear lingered in Sophia's eyes. When she left for a medical checkup with Clara, she smiled, promising, "I'll be fine." She wasn't. Hours later, Clara's shaking voice broke through the phone. "They took her, Alexander. 3 men, they knew your name. They said you have 24 hours to pay 50,000 euros. Rage filled him, not fiery, but cold and absolute. That night, he followed their demands to Barcelona's docks, carrying a duffel of cash. In the flicker of a single bulb inside a rusted warehouse, he found her, tied to a chair, pale, trembling. "Let her go," he ordered. The bearded man grinned. "Do you think you bargained with lives, Carter? The girl's worth more than that." Before Alexander could speak, Sophia's voice broke through, clear and steady. "You can't sell me," she said, "because I know who you are." The man froze. "I heard you talking. Your name is Mark Riley. You live on Blossom Lane. Your daughter goes to St. Francis School." She turned to another. "And your mother's in the hospital in Naples, John Davis. Would she like to know what you do here?" Silence. The men's arrogance cracked. Sirens wailed in the distance. Clara had called the police anyway. Riley cursed, cutting Sophia loose before fleeing into the shadows. Alexander caught her as she ran into his arms. "I knew you'd come," she whispered. He held her tightly. "No one will ever take you again." When police stormed in, the kidnappers were gone, but Sophia stood tall, her courage radiant even through tears. For Alexander, the realization was simple and final. She hadn't just needed saving. She had saved him. Weeks later, at a courthouse in Paris, Sophia twirled in a pale blue dress. "Do I look all right?" "You look perfect," he said, voice trembling. When the judge asked, "Where do you wish to live, child?" Sophia smiled. "With Mr. Alexander. With my dad." The word broke him. He let the tears fall. From that day forward, Sophia Carter became his daughter. The mansion no longer echoed with emptiness. Laughter filled the halls. Her drawings hung on walls once bare. A soccer ball sat in the garden. And beyond their home, Sophia's haven was born. Shelters across Europe offering warmth, education, and love to children like the one who had knocked on his heart years ago. At its opening, Sophia whispered, We're helping them, aren't we? Yes, he said, because you showed me how. One evening, she led him to the garden where the storm had once brought her. There stood a small white doghouse, surrounded by flowers, a plaque reading, "For every child still searching for a home." "You asked for a doghouse," he said softly. She smiled. "But you gave me a home." He pulled her close. "No, Sophia, you gave me one." The mansion that once symbolized solitude became a beacon of love. Proof that sometimes the greatest fortunes are not measured in gold, but in hearts found and homes rebuilt. And it had all begun with a soaked little girl whispering, "Can I stay?" Morning came softly to the Carter estate. Sunlight spilled through tall windows, glinting off the crystal glass and silver breakfast trays. Sophia blinked awake to warmth she hadn't felt in years. For a moment, she lay still, afraid that moving would break the spell. Downstairs, Alexander waited with a paper he wasn't reading. The sound of her bare feet on marble drew his eyes up. "Good morning," she whispered. "Good morning, Sophia. Sit, eat." The spread was simple: toast, eggs, fruit, but she treated it like treasure. He noticed how she saved the crusts, slipping them into her pocket. Survival habits, he thought, don't vanish overnight. After breakfast, he said, "You need clothes?" Her eyes widened. "I have this." He smiled faintly. "You'll have more." Hours later, they stepped into a boutique in Milan, the billionaire and the street child. She touched a blue dress, tracing the fabric as if afraid it would vanish. "This one's enough," she murmured. "Enough," he repeated softly, "isn't what you deserve." She looked up, puzzled, but his gaze was kind. For the first time in her life, someone meant it. Then everything shattered. Across the street, 3 men lingered, eyes locked on her. Her face drained of color. "It's them," she whispered. Alexander followed her stare. The men from the alley, her past, were closing in. Before fear could root her in place, he pulled her behind him. The tallest, bearded one sneered. "That's our girl, Carter. Step aside. She's not yours. You rich types don't get it. She was property long before you found her." The world narrowed to the rain-soaked memory of her trembling voice. Alexander's jaw hardened. "Touch her," he said evenly, "and I will ruin you." The men laughed but didn't move closer. Police sirens echoed faintly somewhere behind City Hum. They vanished before help arrived, leaving only their threat hanging in the air. Back at the estate, Sophia curled on the couch, silent tears sliding down her face. "They'll come back." "They won't," he promised. "Not while I'm alive." He called in favors, strengthened security, and hired private investigators. The mansion turned fortress again, but not the same cold one it had been. This time, its walls protected something worth keeping. Days passed. Sophia began to laugh, a soft sound that startled the house staff. She painted in the sunroom, filling canvases with color. Alexander found himself watching her, realizing she wasn't just healing, she was changing him. Then a woman arrived, Clara Rossi, a social worker. She was gentle but firm, explaining procedures, guardianship laws, the impossibility of informal care. Sophia clung to Alexander's arm. "Please don't make me go," she cried. Clara sighed. "It's not punishment, sweetheart. It's to make you safe forever." Alexander nodded slowly. "Do what must be done." 2 days later, Evelyn Carter, his sister, flew in from London, elegant, furious. "You've lost your mind," she said. "You bring a stray into our name? The press will feast on this." He met her glare. "Then let them. For once, they'll write something true." Sophia peeked from the doorway, eyes wide. Evelyn noticed the small figure, hesitated, then turned away, unable to meet the innocence her words had threatened. But safety was fragile. The next afternoon, Clara took Sophia for a health check. They never came back. At dusk, the call came. Clara's voice shook. "They took her, Alexander. A van forced us off the road. They said you have 24 hours to pay 50,000 euros. Everything inside him went silent. He didn't tell the police to negotiate. He told them to track. He didn't sleep, didn't blink, until a signal pinged from Barcelona's docks. That night, Rain fell again, the same merciless rain as the night she arrived. A rusted warehouse loomed by the sea, one yellow bulb flickering above its door. Inside, 3 men waited. Sophia sat tied to a chair. Her toy rabbit dropped in the dirt. Alexander stepped in alone, carrying a duffel. 50,000, he said, tossing it forward. Now let her go. The bearded man kicked the bag aside. You think this is about money? You humiliated us. You made us look weak. Sophia trembled, but her eyes, when they met Alexander's, were steady. It's okay, she whispered. They won't win. The leader laughed. Brave little thing. Maybe we'll keep her. Then Sophia spoke, her voice clear as glass. I know who you are. The laughter stopped. You're Mark Riley, she said. You live on Blossom Lane, Building 16. Your daughter goes to St. Francis School. She'd be sad if she knew what you do. Riley's face went pale. And you, John Davis. Your mother's in the hospital, in Naples. Would she be proud of this? Silence. The men glanced at each other, panic breaking through their bravado. Outside, sirens wailed, growing louder. Clara had called them anyway. Forget this, Riley hissed. He cut Sophia's ropes and shoved her forward. Alexander caught her, pulling her behind him as the kidnappers fled into the rain. Police lights flared moments later. She looked up at him, eyes shining with tears. I knew you'd come. He held her close. Always. Weeks passed before life felt real again. Courtrooms, documents, signatures. Cold formalities wrapped around a heartbeat of hope. At last, a judge in Paris asked a question that mattered most. Where do you wish to live, child? Sophia smiled, glancing at Alexander. With Mr. Alexander. With my dad. He couldn't speak. He just nodded, eyes wet. The gavel fell. It was done. From that day forward, Sophia Carter became more than his ward. She became his reason. The mansion that once echoed with emptiness filled with laughter and light. Her paintings lined the hallways. Her giggles replaced silence. And Alexander Carter, the man who owned everything but felt nothing, finally belonged somewhere. Together they built Sophia's Haven, a foundation for lost children across Europe. Shelters rose where there had been despair. On the day of its opening, reporters swarmed. But Sophia only looked at him and whispered, We're helping them, aren't we? He smiled. Because you helped me first. Years later, on a quiet evening, she led him into the garden. A small white doghouse stood among the roses, a plaque on its roof. For every child still searching for a home. He traced the words with his fingers. You once asked to sleep in a doghouse, he said softly. She laughed. But you gave me a home. He drew her into a hug. No, Sophia, you gave me one. And as the sun dipped behind the horizon, the one silent mansion glowed with warmth, proof that one act of compassion in a storm could rewrite 2 lives forever.